on a really coherent path in life and to show people that they have a lot more power than they think and that they aren't really um, that they shouldn't look at their lives as being burdened by these systems that really constrain us.
When you say the systems that constrain us, which systems exactly you're referring to?
Really all of the systems, and I can go into this on a more in-depth level, but anything from economic systems to education systems to medical systems to religious systems, right? The what ended up happening was, we erected these systems initially ideologically to support humanity, to allow humans to thrive, to push forth collective good, to allow us to ascend and evolve collectively. But what ended up happening was the systems themselves, the institutions themselves, mistook their purpose. And we started creating and really allowing for the systems to start being the ones that we are following and worshiping. And we mistook our place and they mistook their place in sort of that sacred relationship, if you will. So if you want me to kind of drill kind of deeper on that, if you look at in America and certainly in Great Britain, across Europe, in France for sure, the education system. In the United States, the education system was founded on what's well known as the Prussian model. And the Prussian model was designed to create docile factory workers, right? So at the turn of the 20th century, we had American industrialists like John D. Rockefeller and Carnegie, who literally, put together a framework for the U.S. education system that was not really rooted in anything other than constructing these sort of docile workers, where you go into school where you're learned to memorize and regurgitate. You're not learned to think critically. You are graded based on performance. A grade of an A, a B, or a C, pass, fail, gold stars. And I talk about kind of what that does to the individual psyche and the individual sort of perspective or sense of self. And what it has cultivated is it has cultivated a real kind of individual identity with value based on performance, based on utility, based on what you can provide society, based on what you can provide yourself. And what that does is that obscures people's true connection really with themselves. It obscures any real in-depth understanding of themselves and of individual purpose, because you're constantly, again, you're contorting yourself to accommodate these systems based on your perceived utility or your perceived value. And this is not a sort of woo-woo abstract concept. We're all well aware of this. Like when a child comes into the world, you have like onesies that say, future CEO, or let's start a college fund, right? I mean, so it's really indoctrinated and it's ingrained in our lives. But we mistake this to be normal. We really normalize this sort of, I call it, normalizing disconnection, where we take the core and the essence, the soul of a person, and it's pushed to the side so that they can fit into this cog in a wheel. They can fit into this peg. We go to university in order to, fill a role, to be a doctor or a lawyer. We are becoming these things, but in truth, we're not becoming anything. We're these are our occupations, and we miss the connection that, or we obscure the connection that we have with ourselves, and we incorrectly reorient to the external world. So that's just kind of one example. I can go into many other systems that exist that sever this that sever and create these kind of like superficial disconnections.
Hmm. So you're not against systems at all. You're just against the ones we currently have.
I'm against the metastasis of these systems, how they have really grown to operate as control mechanisms, not just for our minds, but for upward mobility, and how the systems no longer serve humanity. They now serve special interests. They now serve corporations. If we look at the medical industry, for example, at the turn of the 20th century, again in the United States, these same kind of individuals, they completely usurped the existing holistic model, natural remedies. Um, these well known to be effective methodologies, whether it was using frequencies or um, energy sources, again, using food as medicine, they were thrown out. They were considered quackery. They were called quackery. And what was replaced was an allopathic approach to medicine, where you had to, where entire medical schools were indoctrinated with new medical frameworks, where you had to purchase your medicine through a pill, where the objective wasn't to cure the medicine. Sorry, it wasn't to cure the disease through the medicine, but it was to treat symptoms, so that you had a sort of consistent revenue stream where the company benefited, but the individual was brushed aside. The true well-being of the individual, of the human, was not tantamount to the medical industry concern, right? So this is a systemic issue. Now, it's about it's my belief that we have been sort of run off course here. We have been led astray, and it's not really about, in my mind, about burning down the systems. We have to kind of reimagine them. We have to reconstitute them, and we have to reshape them so that they again um, serve their purpose, which is to improve humanity, improve health, give children the ability to wonder again, to use their imagination, to be creative. We've completely a child doesn't learn on a linear basis. They don't learn sitting down, fitting into a square box. They learn on a very sort of reciprocal, circular, non-linear basis, where they're learning to feel, touch, experience, and then gain information. In the current model, you're sat down and you're force-fed information, never questioning, just accepting. So I mean, again, it's about consciously becoming aware of how these systems, how we then as individuals, as citizens, start embodying the consciousness of these systems. We don't realize it, but in truth, that's what happens. And we start becoming complacent and we don't question. And it's really, in order for us to, as a society, as a civilization, quite frankly, to really kind of take back control and take back inner sovereignty, we have to become aware of how these systems are no longer serving humanity, are no longer serving their original intention.
I see. So, in your opinion, the citizens are not in power right now, and by having them reclaiming that power, we would have a better society. Isn't that socialism? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely, absolutely not.
No.
No, because capitalism in its current form is not true capitalism.
Okay.
Capitalism in its current form is completely corrupt capitalism.
Okay.
And I say that because you have companies that now control policy on the government level. You have companies that now dictate how, in the States, how the Food and Drug Administration approves or does not approve medications. You have, so what